YouTube automators, this video is by far one of the most valuable videos inside of the YTA Masterclass. I feel like I say that on a lot of videos because guess what? They're all valuable, baby. But this one is over and beyond. Is that the right way to say it? But it is an unbelievable video. I'll tell you that. And I literally have a crazy amount of notes here on my laptop. So I'm going to be glancing down because there's literally so much I couldn't memorize it because I want to give you guys everything you need in order to master thumbnails. That's my goal, for you to be a master. See, the same way in like baseball. I use that analogy a lot because I grew up wanting to become the shortstop for the New York Yankees. But like if you look at baseball, people who master hitting, like that's what they're unbelievable at, usually get paid the big bucks because they mastered what puts, points on the board. Like that's how it works. And I think thumbnails are the exact same way. It's that one thing. If you could master anything with YouTube, this should really be like one of the number one things I would master, because in the day, this is what gets people to want to click on your videos. Like people, when you're scrolling through YouTube, they mainly look at the thumbnails and then look at the title. So what's really important is that you understand thumbnails. You're not just good at them. You're not just okay. And even if you're not the one creating them, you fully understand thumbnails. That way, when you do outsource, you're a thumbnail creator. You can coach and you can teach. And you can also, don't forget, we're going to train them as well. But it's important you understand it. That way you can say, listen, that's good, that's not. And you know what is going to go viral. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Let's go into diving in how you can master creating thumbnails, which is the picture below videos. And here's the first thing I understand. There's two key components to creating great thumbnails. And the first one is you need to make people want to stop. And the second is you want to make people want to click. Now, the importance behind understanding this is because a lot of people, they'll just create thumbnails that make people want to click. But even though it makes people want to click, a lot of people scroll through YouTube really, really fast. It's important that you have some sort of thumbnail that stands out, that looks a little bit different than everything else, it's colorful, and it makes people want to stop off the bat. That way they at least look at it. Because it's not just important when people look at it that it makes them want to click. It's important that they want to look at it in the first place. So it's like almost like two steps. It's like you stop, they're scrolling. It's like, whoa, that enticed me. Just off glance, really, really fast, which we're going to be diving into more. And the second thing is I want to click. It's like, okay, I look at the thumbnail. That looks interesting. I'm going to click. So there's really two steps and psychological steps behind thumbnails being created. Now, the first thing I'm going to go ahead and share in order to be able to understand how to get people to stop and click, because that's what you want to do. It's like, Caleb, it's good to know that people need to stop and click, but how do I get people to stop and click? Well, the first thing I'm going to go ahead and share before I even give you guys advice is, number one, the best way to get people to stop and click is you got to use OPC. Once again, guys, this is what it comes back to, is using other people's channels. You want to use OPC to identify what people are already stopping and clicking on in your niche. That's what I recommend you guys do. I recommend you go and look at your niche and say, what is making people currently stop and click? Like, what videos have gone the most viral? And that's how you know what videos people are stopping and clicking on, because once again, if it went viral, then it clearly has a great CTR, which is a great click-through rate because it follows the algorithm liked it, so you know it worked. So what about that made them stop and click? And what I would do is, personally, I would identify all of the congruencies and components of every viral video. Now, here's the important part. You need obsessive attention to detail. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I did OPC. I'm like, well, how long did you look at it? Like, oh, I just looked for 5 minutes. I'm like, what'd you learn? Oh, I learned like they were all like really, really like good thumbnails. I'm like, dude, you didn't obsess. Like I would personally recommend, if I'm you guys, I would literally be staring at the most viral thumbnails in my niche for hours at a time. And I'll be looking at every little thing, like what made this work? Like, they have an X here. Should try an X there. Interesting. They have their colors. They're doing mainly really, really bright colors. Or maybe you're in you do like scary videos. So like maybe like it's always really, really dark and it's black and white. Like I would identify every little component. I would sit there and say, interesting, there's an outline around the person in this video. Or interesting, I noticed that they're all using this one celebrity in their videos. Or they're using this cartoon. Or interesting, like these are animated. Like, I would be looking at every little detail. And I would be literally, personally, I would take a notepad like this, and I would literally just write out. I'd be like, okay, number one, I'm literally going to write it out. Let's do this. Like, I'd be like, number one, this thumbnail, I noticed there's an outline around someone. Interesting. There's also a red shadow. Interesting. Every single one has celebrities in it. This is fascinating. And I would literally just be sitting here, and literally, I would go until this entire page is filled, and I would just sit there after going through all the most viral things. Like, this is the key. You need to obsess and have attention to detail, and you feel like what all goes into it, because that's the really, really important thing. And I would say, okay, there's 50 things that like all these different things had. What are some of the components? You know what I mean? Like, what are some, like every single one I noticed has a shadow like around people. So it's like an outer glow. Every single one has an outline around people. Every single one has text like inside of it. So like I need to do text. Everyone has this color. And I would figure out what are the congruencies, because if you just look at one thumbnail Obviously, it might be a little bit different. But if you look at a plethora of thumbnails in your niche, and you look at all the lists of thumbnails, and you identify the congruencies, you're going to find not just what worked one time or what worked for that specific video, but you're going to find the patterns of virality in your niche that you should model. And once again, we're going to train your thumbnail creator to do all this, but it's important you do this as well and understand what goes viral, because thumbnails are that important. And you need to have obsessive attention to detail and look at every little thing, because there's so much. Like let me go to YouTube right now. There's so much little stuff, like just like reasons why stuff go viral. And not only, another thing that's very, very important when you're mastering thumbnails is you don't just want to map out the components and just think about what all goes into the thumbnail, but you also want to identify the psychology behind the thumbnail. And see, that's what a lot of people get wrong, because they try to figure out the thumbnail behind the clicks. You need to find the psychology behind the clicks. So like, let's say I'm doing scary video niche. I don't know why this is coming to mind. I never watch scary videos, which is the funniest part. But let's say I'm doing scary videos. Like, I would notice that most of the scary videos, there's usually like, okay, yeah, like I'm mapping out components, right? It's like usually in this, there's like a scary face. It's like faces. Like every one of them has like a scary face. And maybe one would be like, this one's like a ghost. This one's a zombie. Right? So I would write all these out. And I would have all like the things. I mean, okay, everyone has a face. Everyone's black and white. So I'd be mapping out all the components first. And then once I'm done mapping out the components, I would say, okay, now what is the psychology behind why this worked? Like why do people click on scary faces? Like why? Well, it's because humans, their eyes are immediately drawn to faces. And the number one thing you see at night when you're scared is what? You don't see like a pole. You see a face. Like if you're like scared and you're in your head, like you don't want, the last thing you want to do is open your eyes and guess what? See a face. You don't want to see a face next to your bed. Like that is what we imagine is the worst case scenario. So like that's the psychology behind it. So like now if I did this and I understand, well, why is it black and white? Well, because that resembles that it's dark and like it's scary. And if it was colorful, it wouldn't be as scary because it looked more real. But black and white makes it look like nighttime. And I'd be like, oh my goodness, I noticed all these have night filters on it. Guys, this is simple stuff that I'm telling you guys right now, but this is mastery. When you do this, when you sit down and say, okay, what are all the components and what's the psychology, you can become a master of the thumbnails in your niche. You can fully understand them. I do scary niche. Guys, I'm just literally flowing right now with you. Like my goal is just like you hang out with me as if I was doing this. Lifestyle niche. So let's say I'm looking at like lifestyle videos, right? There's like pictures of people. Obviously, we're doing faceless. I meant to do life hack. Life hack niche. So like I'm looking at life hacks, and I notice with the life hack channel, like all of them have before and afters. That's like the biggest thing that I see. So I would write out before and afters. And afters. Okay. So then I would write out, they're all colorful. Okay. So like I would do this for like 30 minutes. I would look at every single viral thumbnail. I'd look at all the reasons why. And I'd be okay. Then I would go through it and I'd be like, what's the psychology behind this? Like why did people click? Not what did they click on, because that is important too, but why did they click on it? And I would notice, okay, well, why do you think they click on before and afters? Well, it's probably because life hacks, you want a hack that takes you from a pain that you have, a problem that you have, to a solution. So like one of them might be a before and after where someone's shirt is super, super dirty. And then maybe on the next one, so it's before, it's a photo of someone's shirt super dirty. And the next one, it's super, super clean. No, why would that work? It's because the before is like people have dirty shirts and then it's super clean. But notice it wasn't just a lint roller, because if it was a lint roller, then people would be used to that. And it's something they already expect. But if it's a water bottle that someone's rubbing on the dirty shirt, it's like, how do you make a water bottle like a lint roller? So like the psychology behind a life hack video is that, and by the way, this is me in like 60 seconds. I've never done this in my life before, looked at life hack videos like this. This is in 60 seconds. I've like looked at life hack videos, but never analyzed the psychology. And I'd be like, okay, well, they say the psychology behind life hack videos is it's before and after thumbnails really, really work. And then it has some sort of way of getting the after that you would have never thought before, but with an item that people already have. Like guys, like that is viral. Like if you understand that, and every single niche is gonna be different. So like I can go through, and I'm going to, like this is gonna be a long video. I'm gonna go through a bunch of things that goes into a viral thumbnail, that goes into getting people to want to click. But at the end of the day, every single niche is different. And the reason why people click is different every single time. If I'm in the entrepreneur niche, people click on different videos about making money than they would about life hacks, and different life hacks than they would about scary videos, and different scary videos than they would about vlogs and all sorts of stuff like that. So every niche is different. So the first thing I encourage you guys to do is I encourage you guys to go through your niche and map out every single component in congruency with obsessive attention to detail. Like if you notice each one, like, a lot of them have light bulbs in it. A lot of them use the color blue. Write out everything you can, and just kind of sit back and just kind of look at it for like a little while. Because by the way, guys, thinking is probably the most profitable action you can ever take for anything. Like you look at athletes, a lot of times the thinking they did is the reason why they are where they are. Business people, billionaires. Warren Buffett sits in a room for 6 hours a day. So if you want YTA to work, it's going to take some thinking. Just write all the components out and just sit there and like look at it. Like, why does that work? Like, why does colorful work for life hacks? Like, I don't even know yet. Like, I can sit there and think about it. Like, well, bright, it gets people's attention. Bright colors signifies like happiness, and like life hacks supposed to be happy. Life is pretty colorful, so like it's light. Like I could just think about a million reasons. And when you do this for like an hour, you're gonna fully understand why thumbnails in your niche go viral. And you're not even fully done with this video, but just with the first key to this, you're already gonna be a master at thumbnails. And that's the cool part. You're gonna have an advantage. And the key is use OPC, meaning if they do something similar to that. If you notice before and afters are working, do before and afters. You notice dark, scary videos are working, do scary videos. Figure out what's working in your niche and figure out the psychology behind the click, not just the thumbnail itself. Like, why did they click? Like, why did they use what they use? Not what did they use. Map out what they used and then say, why did they use that? Why did that work? Why do all these have the same thing? And you're going to fully understand it to where you can't just, you won't even just have to copy what they did exactly. You'll understand the psychology of why they created it in the first place. I know there's a lot of people when they use OPC, they'll just copy thumbnails. Although that's valuable, and I encourage you to do that. Model thumbnails for sure. What's even more valuable is not just copying, but it's understanding how they created it. Because if you understand how they created it, now you can compete with them versus just copy them, if that makes any sense. So that's the first secret, is using OPC, identifying all of it, and figure out what people are already clicking on, and then seeing the psychology behind it. Now, I'm going to go and give you guys the philosophy, in my opinion, behind how to make a viral thumbnail. So like what goes into a viral thumbnail and all the important things. And here's what I encourage you guys to do. Personally, I would watch this entire video multiple times over, and I would follow the steps. I would do exactly what I just said to start, and I'm going to give you guys a bunch of stuff on the second round of like I gave you guys the first secret. Now I'm going to give you guys a bunch of stuff that basically causes people to click on thumbnails, what makes a viral thumbnail. And then I want you guys to take notes on the next stuff I'm saying. So the first round, I want you guys to actually literally go use OPC. Like watch this entire video, then watch it a second time. Do the first round, which is literally figuring out why people click on what they click on, and like going through OPC, and then take notes on everything I'm about to say right now, because we're about to get into the nitty gritty, and there's a lot of things that's gonna be said that's very, very important that you guys catch and understand. Man, I'm excited about this, guys. You guys, I know if someone like really is grasping the concept, they're gonna start understanding how to create viral thumbnails, which is exciting. Okay, so what makes a viral thumbnail? Well, number one, the question is this: what would get clicks? That's what makes a viral thumbnail. Like a thumbnail is just there to get clicks. So the real question is this: what would get clicks, not the other way around? And what I notice is this: a lot of people when they're creating thumbnails, they'll go to create a thumbnail, and what they'll do is they'll create a thumbnail and then figure out as it's there, what else can I add in that would make people want to click? So like I'm doing videos about brushing my teeth. So they'll just take a picture of brushing their teeth and they'll say, what would get people to click on this? And then they'll like create, or sorry, then they'll be like, what would make people click on this? But while they already have the thumbnail up. And like it's hard. What I would personally first do is I would say, okay, I'm creating this video. What would get people to click on this? And then I would create that after. So it's doing it the other way. It's not creating a thumbnail and then saying, can I make this any better where people click on this? It's saying, what if I created it? And if I didn't even I don't even have to know how to create it. If I could figure out how to create it, anything in the world, anything at all, would make people want to click on it. And then just doing everything it takes to create that thumbnail. That's the formula. So what I want you guys to do when you're creating a video is thinking, what thumbnail would people click on? And then create that thumbnail versus pulling up some sort of photo editor or telling your team create a thumbnail and then them creating it and then saying, no, change this, this, and this to make people click. It's the angle of the thumbnail, not the little tweaks that goes into it, if that makes any sense. So that's the first thing that goes into a viral thumbnail, is it starts with asking what would get clicks, and then you create the thing that would get clicks, versus creating the thing and then asking yourself, how can I make this thing get clicks, if that makes any sense. The second thing is, this is a really, really important one. This is actually one I'm really, really excited to share, exaggerate the emotion. This one is vital, guys. Like I said before, people don't click on thumbnails logically. They click on them emotionally. People click on thumbnails because they're curious and because they want to know what this video is about and they want to see this video. And the number one reason they do that is because of an emotion. Like, you're not usually going to get someone to click off of an impulse if it's a logical decision. Like, if someone's thinking about something logically, like, you know, should I eat this food? Should I eat this food in front of me? Like, should I eat this donut? Let me just think about this for a second. And they start thinking about, man, well, the donut's unhealthy. Man, you know, I got kids. I want to make sure, like, I'm there for them. Like, they start getting really deep, and all of a sudden, I don't want the donut anymore. But if someone here's like, hey, here's a donut, and they're like, okay, cool, and they just bite it, the impulse is going to get them to eat it a lot faster than them logically thinking about it. So it's the exact same thing. You want to get people to feel something emotionally versus just having a thumbnail that they might want to click on. You want to evoke emotion so much in one thumbnail that they have to click on that thumbnail. That's the goal. And the way you do that is by exaggerating the emotion. So you want to ask yourself, what is the emotion in this video that I'm conveying? And every single video has a specific emotion that you're trying to convey. So for example, I do, you know, a lot of motivational videos, right? So like when I would first create videos on Facebook and I wanted them to go viral, I would want to be like, how can I create something? And actually, a lot of times, what I went viral off of wasn't even motivation, it was controversy. Because I know that people would click on videos that were controversial. So I wouldn't ask myself, how do I make people not, like, hate this video? I would say, how can I create a title that immediately people hate? We're like, no way, this kid said this. I have to click on it. And they click on it, and they're like, actually, it's a pretty good concept. Like, how do I make this exaggerated to the point where they have to click on it because they hate it so much, and then they end up liking the video? So I was going for the emotion of controversy. Then you see a lot of motivational videos, right? And like they'll do like they'll create like on YouTube, they'll have millions and millions of views, and their videos, they're like motivational videos. They have music and they have like motivational quotes and like a story or something. Notice those thumbnails, they're always super motivational. Like you look at them, you get fired up. Whether it be they put a motivational icon, they put something like Sylvester Stallone, Conor McGregor. Well, guess what that's doing? That's evoking the emotion of like, man, like Sylvester Stallone works hard, I need to work hard. Like they're exaggerating the emotion. Look at scary channels. Like, let's keep with this analogy real quick. You look at the channels do like super scary videos. By the way, I don't recommend you do this one purely because I don't like scary videos, but it's really, really good one to look at because they definitely evoke emotion. Those videos like are like, oh my goodness, that looks so scary. I gotta click on it, right? Or like some people don't, but a lot of people do because they like watching scary videos. So if you cannot just make it's scary, how can I make it the scariest it can possibly be? Like, what is something where just the photo alone will give someone nightmares? And that sounds messed up, right? But if you're in the scary niche, that's the goal. You want to scare people because that's the emotion that people are clicking on the video for. Or if you're doing, you know, life hack videos, the whole entire goal of life hack videos are curiosity driven. It's like, I got to know this. So it's like, what is something where I can exaggerate the curiosity? Like, how can I make someone who's curious to click on this video, which by everything's driven out of curiosity, but life hack specifically is like super curious. How can I make someone so intrigued with what the answer to this is that they have to click on it? So it's like, what can I add in that would make someone just like, what? Like, that doesn't make sense. Where they literally have to click on the video. You look at these top channels, the ones that get the most views in the life hack niche, the thumbnails blow your mind. Like, I'll look up like someone like Brightside. Brightside isn't necessarily, like even like this. Okay, like I look at this. For example, right? Like look at this life hack channel right now that's viral. It has 361,000 views one day ago. This is a genius. Like, there's a reason why it has 361,000 people. Once again, what is 361,000 views? That's 361,000 people saying, huh, I want to watch this. And they click on it. So their click-through rate is through the roof. I guarantee it. Well, why? It's because the title is 11 Girl Secrets and Hacks Guys Don't Know About. This is genius because the emotion they're going for is they want guys to sit there and they want guys to be like, what hacks do girls do that I don't know about? It's curiosity driven. It's the exact same thing of like, even girls are like, what secrets do we have that guys don't know about? So like both parties are like curious about this, but the thumbnail exaggerates the curiosity. It's like, this is clearly not a real thing if you think about it. Like, look at this thumbnail. On the left side, it's a girl with jeans on with holes in them. On the other side, everywhere where those holes aren't, so like under the jeans, it shows that her legs are super hairy. So what it's basically saying is it's saying girls only shave their legs where it's shown, and you don't know this. Because obviously no one believes that, but I want to click on this video. In fact, I'm kind of mad that I'm filming this right now because it means I can't watch this video. It took the emotion of curiosity and it massively, massively exaggerated that emotion. Like, that's what it did. It literally exaggerated the emotion. Like, there's curiosity, and I was like, man, I want to know what girls have secrets of that I don't know about. And then it exaggerated that emotion because it's like her legs are hairy, I didn't even know that. Like, it's like, wait, do girls actually do that? It's like this thing I have to click on. Not I want to click on. I have to click on. Once again, they exaggerated the emotion. So this works for every single niche. It's exaggerating the emotion that you're portraying. So I want you guys to write out. Take the piece of paper and say, what am I personally portraying with my channel? What's the emotion that I'm going for? Let's say your emotion is purely, let's say you're doing top 10 videos. So it's like people want to learn something, right? So like, curiosity. It's like, I'm curious. I want to know about this thing. So it's like, I would write down curiosity. And I would, number one, figure out how are other people in my niche making people curious. And number two, how can I exaggerate curiosity? When I create thumbnails, how can I not just make it like, I would like to not know the top 10, things the Queen of England can't do. But then how can I add in the thumbnail to where it's not just like curious, but it's like the Queen of England with toilet paper in her hand. It's like, the Queen of England can't like wipe herself with toilet paper. Now, obviously, it's a crazy analogy, but still, that would work. Like, people would be like, wait, what can't the Queen of England do with toilet paper? I want to know about this. It's exaggerating the emotion. That's the most important thing. I'm harping on this, guys. This will be one of the videos where I just repeat myself over and over and over again because I want you guys to fully grasp what I'm saying because this is so vital. Like, you go through the entire YT Masterclass, but if you don't understand thumbnails, it was all pretty much worthless. And that's how like serious I really am about this. This matters massively. So exaggerate the emotion is one of the most important parts of mastering thumbnails. Identify the emotion of the thumbnail and amplify it. If it's anger, make them as angry as possible. If it is sad, make them as sad as possible. If it's cute, make the cutest thumbnail you possibly can. If it's curiosity, make them as curious as possible. Whatever it is that you're trying to portray, that emotion, exaggerate that emotion as much as possible in the thumbnail. And by the way, guys, the beautiful part about creating thumbnails is anything is possible. Like, when we show you how to hire your thumbnail creator, unless you're going to be doing it on your own, most of you guys can be hiring your thumbnail creator. If you hire the right thumbnail creator, and you will because you have YTA, you literally can have them create any thumbnail you want. So the real goal is, how can I think of any thumbnail that would force people to want to click? How can I exaggerate the emotion so much and then just tell your thumbnail creator to figure it out? That's the beautiful part about YouTube automation. You can come up with any idea and then say, make this happen. And anything is possible in Photoshop. There's nothing you can really think of that a thumbnail creator can't create. Like, pretty much nothing. So the question is, what can I create? What's a thumbnail I can create that exaggerates the emotion so much that people have to click on the video? The next thing that I want to go and share is the only real thing that you need to make sure to be kind of important of when you're creating your thumbnail is making it somewhat believable. Now, the reason I say somewhat is because that is the key. It's got to be just kind of somewhat believable because it doesn't have to be fully believable. Meaning, like, I really know that whenever I'm looking at like that girl with hairy legs, I'm not like, girls have hair under their legs, but when they, wear jeans with holes in them, they just shave that one part. I didn't think that for a second, but it was like, it's not even really like fully believable, but it's like not completely like a blatant lie. Like, it's like somewhat believable, like just barely enough. And that's the key. It's like evoking curiosity and making it somewhat believable. Like, you don't want to be like, Florida no longer exists, because like people like know Florida exists, if that makes any sense whatsoever. And honestly, you can start to get kind of like a little bit weird with how you do it. Like, you can kind of stretch the truth a little bit, which is okay because you get people to click, and then you can explain in the video how it's a little bit different than what you kind of said. So you can just barely, but you want to make sure it's at least somewhat believable, or people aren't like, yeah, right. Because like some things I'll be scrolling by and it gets my curiosity, I'm like, whoa, and I'm like, no way it's even real. And I'll just keep scrolling. So you got to make it at least somewhat believable. The next important thing to know about creating thumbnails, and this is honestly what I personally believe, for me personally, everything is different for everyone else, but for me personally is the most important part of thumbnails is passing what we call the scroll check. Now, what the scroll check means when you scroll through YouTube, you want to make it, once again, I've said this a million times, you want to make it to where it's literally impossible to not, number one, stop on your video, and number two, click on your video. And the way you do that is you look at your thumbnail and you need to give yourself an honest analysis and say, wait a second, would I stop on this thumbnail? Guaranteed. Would it stop me in my tracks? And would it make me have to click on it? Now, when you have a thumbnail where you know that if you were scrolling through, you passed the scroll check, meaning you were scrolling through YouTube and you saw it, you would have to stop and you would have to click on it, then you're going to have a really high click-through rate. And if you have a really high click-through rate, virality is almost inevitable. If you can strive for that 25 number, which we talked about, and you can get to that 25%, you can even just strive there. You can get part of that, then you're going to go viral. So the real thing is, how can I pass the scroll check? Meaning, how can I, if I'm scrolling through YouTube, be the absolute number one thumbnail that stands out? How can I have the best thumbnails in the game? And that's the goal. You want to be the best, you got to be the best. At the end of the day, Michael Jordan is one of the greatest basketball players ever because he's one of the greatest basketball players ever. You can't trick your way into being the best. You must be the best. So the same thing, if you want to be the best in your niche, you want to be the biggest in your niche, you have to have the best thumbnails in your niche. That is one of the most vital and important parts of this entire process. So make it impossible not to click. Here's how I really think about the scroll check. Make it to where people would be so curious about your video that they would honestly actually kind of pay to watch it. If you can get your video to where people would be willing to pay to watch your video, they're going to watch it for free. And the truth is, they kind of are paying for your video with their time. Remember, people value their time a lot, and they're not going to click on something that they're not extremely intrigued with. They're not going to click on something they're just like, looks okay. Like, okay doesn't work on YouTube. It's got to grab them. It's got to pull them out of the, phone. It's got to, that video has to jump out of the phone and, grab them and be like, yo, you need to watch this video. Like, that's how good it needs to be. And you need to get to a place where if someone will be willing to pay to watch your video, that's how you know it's pretty much inevitable that your video is going to go viral. It's basically inevitable at that point. The next thing I kind of want to add in, this is kind of like something that's not necessarily going viral. Actually, it is, but it's just more of an important thing to kind of understand, because if you don't, then it was like the thumbnail you created was kind of worthless. And that's make sure that the thumbnail looks good both on mobile and on desktop. So meaning it looks good both big and small. Because a lot of times people create like a thumbnail on desktop because you really don't create thumbnails on your phone, and they'll have this really, really big thumbnail and it stands out to them because it's so big. It's across their entire computer. But at the same time, if there's a bird that's huge, and I don't know why I thought about a bird, but like a bird that's huge and like a really, really small bird, what's more likely to get your attention? If there's a spider on the wall and the spider is super, super big and super, super small, which one of those spiders is more likely to get your attention? It's the really, really, really big one. So the same thing, like attention follows what's large. So a lot of times a thumbnail may look really, really good on desktop, but when it goes on mobile and it looks smaller, it's not as good as you thought it was. So what I encourage you guys to do is to make sure that it looks good on mobile. Maybe have, your thumbnail creator, once again, we'll train them to do all this, but have your thumbnail creator literally like look at the small thumbnail, look at the thumbnail on their phone and make sure it stands out on the phone. Maybe put it on your phone, airdrop it to your phone and make it small. Maybe make it really, really small on a laptop to where you put your phone up to it and you're like, okay, that's about where the size of a mobile would be. And make sure that thumbnail is just as captivating then, because sometimes you may have a really, really big thumbnail and it looks great and there's a really small person down here and it looks awesome because it's like, oh, I see that person. But when it's really, really small, you can't even see that person, or you can't even see the text that you put on there. So an important thing is making sure that even when it shrinks down, it still stands out and grabs your attention. And sometimes you may have to make things bigger and may have to adjust a little bit, but it's important that it looks good, not just on desktop, but also on mobile. Another thing is don't put a lot of text on your thumbnails. A lot of people will write full sentences. The truth is, because your thumbnail is going to be small and because people scroll so fast, they don't have time to read entire sentences. That's really what a title is there for. Real thing, if you're ever going to put text in your thumbnail, most of the time you're only going to want to put it in your thumbnail if it's just one or two or just a small handful of words. That's when you're going to want to put them. They're going to want to be more keywords than a sentence. People don't read thumbnails, they glance at thumbnails. So you want something, when they glance at it, they see it. If it says shocking, no one's going to have to read that. They just say shocking. It's a quick glance. But if it says the most shocking thing you will ever see today, you won't believe what you just witnessed, it's no one's going to read that because it's too long and people go really, really fast through YouTube. So when you're creating your thumbnail, make sure that your thumbnail doesn't have a crazy amount of text in it. Now, if your niche has a lot of text in it, because there's some like Reddit kind of has a lot of text, it's a little bit different. Obviously, use OPC, and don't forget, anything I say, if OPC directly competes with it and goes against it, then I personally would just follow OPC because it's proven to work at the end of the day. But for most niches, for most channels, you're never going to really put a lot of text in there. If you ever put text, it's going to be keywords or things that kind of get people's attention at a glance. And another thing, guys, and the final kind of thing I want to go and run through when it comes to creating your thumbnail is understand, guys, at the end of the day, the littlest change on a thumbnail can make the biggest difference. And this is a really, really important thing. Even when Ryan and I were creating a thumbnail for a video the other day, we added one little thing in there. And that's the person that was in the video. They're smiling real big. And we added a little piece of lettuce in their tooth. Because when you're scrolling through and you see someone with lettuce in their tooth, you're more likely to stop than just a normal person smiling. It was one little thing. That one little thing could be actually worth an extra 100,000 views of that video. So it's sit back and kind of just look at your thumbnail and say, is there any little thing I can throw in here? One little extra thing that if it makes a difference. Can I put a line here? Can I put, an emoji here? What could I add in? Because you're going to notice a lot of the most viral thumbnails, there's little intricate parts that get people's attention that you don't even realize. It's this little masterpiece. That's the cool part about thumbnails. It really is art. Everything else is a genuine science when it comes to YouTube. thumbnail is the one part that is kind of art. Yes, there's a science to it for sure, and you guys are definitely learning a lot of that science. But at the end of the day, thumbnails, it's something you got to learn, you got to test, and you kind of got to look at it and be like, what can I make? What can I throw in here? Because every thumbnail is different. There's so many endless combination thumbnails, literally endless combinations, that every thumbnail is going to be different. So every thumbnail might be a little bit different. For example, another video, we had someone in the thumbnail that was like going like this, and we just added in a hand behind them that was about to smack them. So like think about, like if someone's like this, it gets attention for sure. Like that's another thing. Like if you're going to put a face in there, they're going like this, or they're going like what? Like what's going to get more attention? Like you want shock and all, you want something that grabs people. But even if someone's going like this, that's going to get attention. But then we just added a fake hand going behind their head, like it was about to smack them, and the hand was blurry, so it looked like it was coming in really, really fast. Like that gets a lot more attention because someone's going like this, and they're about to get smacked. You're like, I want to see them get smacked. Like it's one little thing. So understand the littlest change can make a massive difference. Now guys, I'm throwing a lot of things your way about thumbnails. I know there's a few thoughts going through your head. Number one, a lot of you guys are probably thinking, well, how do I actually create these thumbnails? Well, number one, we're going to show you guys how to hire someone inside of the hiring section to create these thumbnails for you that's already a pro and is already an expert. So do not even worry about that. We got you covered. If you are going to be doing thumbnails on your own, then I highly recommend that you use Photoshop. The exact same way if you're going to have a thumbnail creator, they need to use Photoshop. We're going to show you how to hire someone that knows how to use Photoshop. So don't even worry. Like this is something I want you guys to understand the overall concept. That way you understand what goes viral. That way you can go viral. But your thumbnail creator is going to be doing all the real work for you at the end of the day. And if you are going to be doing it on your own, you're going to be creating Photoshop, then I recommend you become an expert at Photoshop. You watch tutorials, you learn it, you become good, because it's important that you're a pro at Photoshop if you really, really want to create great thumbnails that don't look tacky and that actually get people's attention. So if you guys are worrying about how to create them, don't worry. Like I said before, this understanding virality part is about understanding virality, not creating videos. We're going to get to that more. I want you guys to understand the overall concept first. Another thing real fast about thumbnails, guys, is like, I know that I covered a lot in this video. There was a lot that was said. In fact, like, I'm going to need a quick break after this because like there was like so much. I put a lot of energy into this video and I've been going for a while now. So I can imagine like you guys probably, there was a lot of information you just took in. Watch this video once again. I say this in every single video because guys, I expect immersion out of you guys. Watch this video over and over and over again. And then, like at the end of the day, guys, if you use OPC and if you follow what I shared in here, you're gonna be a pro at thumbnails. You're gonna be an absolute master. And it's one of those things, in order to become a master, there's no one that can just step on camera and just be like, you're a master at basketball, learn this, this, and this. It's like someone needs to teach you the concept, teach you what to do in order to learn that concept. But then at the end of the day, you have to test on your own and try to figure it out. So this is going to be something I recommend you guys go into YouTube and literally, as much as possible, just like be looking at thumbnails and titles, specifically in your niche, but just all across the board, and just ask yourself like, what goes into this that like I'm missing? And like really sit down, like having a notepad and just like writing down on all the components, the psychology behind it, the emotion you're trying to convey. Like there should be an entire notepad that you have that's just called thumbnail. It's just called thumbnail, and literally underneath it has all the components, all the psychology, and then the emotion you're trying to convey. That really should be what you're going for. And like you need to immerse on this concept, because once you understand the components of thumbnails in your niche to go viral, the psychology behind the thumbnails in your niche to go viral in OPC, using OPC, and you understand the emotion you're trying to convey, at that point, you're going to be a master of thumbnails when you have those components. If you apply everything in this video, you will be an absolute master. But the key is you have to step into mastery mode. And don't forget, with YouTube, one of the beautiful parts is, you guys ever heard that quote that says, the more you learn, the more you earn? And I really, really believe that. It is true. But it's especially true with YouTube, because the more you learn, the more you earn in life is true. But at the end of the day, like sometimes it's not directly correlated. Like I'll read something in a book and I won't get paid for that thing for 2 years, and that thing comes back up. So yes, I did earn, but it's not an immediate, like I learned something, I earned. But with YouTube, it is. When you learn something today, that thing can earn you money tomorrow, because if you obsess and you understand thumbnails and you like, there's one little extra thing you understand about thumbnails that you didn't understand yesterday, that one little tweak can get an extra 1 million views on a video, which is worth, let's say, an extra $8,000 to you. That one little thing, that one thing you learned was directly correlative to what you earned this week. So one of the things I want you guys doing is understanding one of the best places that you can get educated is, number one, obviously the YTA Masterclass is the number one place, and you're gonna be learning everything you need. But at the exact same time, it's taking what you learn in the YTA Masterclass and taking it like this lens. Like we're basically putting on the lens and then going to YouTube and learning from the actual platform itself, figuring out what is it that people are doing strategically. And what I recommend, honestly, is when you guys create your channel, because by now you have your channel set up, I recommend that on that channel, you subscribe to as many people in your niche, as many OPC as you can. You subscribe to as many other people's channels in your niche that have millions and millions of views. That way your newsfeed is just flooded with viral videos in your niche, and just literally sit there and scroll. Like the amount it can be worth it just to scroll for an hour, literally over and over and over and over again, and say, oh my gosh, that's something I missed. Because that one thing you missed could be worth so much more to you. The more you do that, the more you learn, the more you are going to earn. So I really encourage you guys, and I know I keep saying this over and over again, is to obsess. It's to absolutely obsess on what you're learning inside of here, to watch this over and over and over again, and then looking at YouTube with this lens, and every single day just figuring out until your channel is fully automated. And even then, I continue to recommend you do it, because one idea could be worth a lot to you, and then just say, okay, there's this component I didn't even notice, and that one component can be worth so much to you guys. So anyway, guys, I can keep riffing on this all day, every day, but that is how to master thumbnails. Use OPC, and then follow what I talked about that goes into creating a viral thumbnail. And then don't forget, you are just one video away.